And so with that being said, since this would be new, assuming we go down that direction, one of the things that we would talk about is, number one, we'd sit down with the municipality, we'd talk about traffic patterns. That's number one. Number two, we would have practice runs. So we'd work with our PTA and our STEP so that we can have some type of event where parents can be involved and they can drop off the kids. And number three, I've already talked with the high school superintendent. And one of the things the high school superintendent talked about was she's not so much concerned about the end of the day. She's concerned about the beginning of the day. Because at the beginning of the day, there's a 15-minute window between when they start and when we start. And there's chronic tardiness at the high school. We're limited by contract. We can only start at 8:10 because that's when our contract starts. We can go no further than that. So the high school starts at 8. We designed a schedule so that there's a 10-minute stagger between parents who have children at Lee and Giles. And there's a 5-minute stagger between parents that may have children at RHS and Giles. And again, part of it is we have contractual obligations and we're very limited in those contractual obligations. And so, I want to be mindful. Traffic can be very difficult and a lot of people are driving their kids. Yeah. I've heard from parents that we're a walking school, but when I walk outside, there are parents that live a block away that are still in the car. And that's okay. We like to see our kids off to school. I do it too. I live a block away and I still drop my kid off in the car because I like to do that. I like to see them in the building. I like to see their friends. So we've taken that into consideration. Is it going to be perfect? It's going to take time, but I'm as sure as I'm sitting here that we can work together between the three schools really, and the municipality so that it would flow more readily. It's never going to flow perfectly, because other discussions I've had with parents that have dropped off their children at the high school is it's difficult.
Either way, getting out of the high school, yeah.
Exactly. They say it's difficult because when you go in that parking lot, the way it's designed, you swoop around and then you loop around, and the traffic is going left and right. Or
you have to go through the whole lot.
It's actually east and west. But anyways, I hope that helps a little bit. So these are some of the things we did think about, and I'll talk a little bit about when we talk about scenario 4 and 5, because we had to design schedules for 4 and 5, and we had to staff schedules for 4 and 5. And so we talked about these things because we wanted to be mindful, and we did take into consideration times between the buildings.
Have you met with the villages yet then at all?
We have not gotten there, no, absolutely not. That's something that is down the road if we so choose to go in that direction.
My question is, I'm sure we have time for that. You discussed earlier about the stairs are very expensive to adjust, and children
It can be done.
Yes,
Yeah.
it can be done. Then you discussed about changing rooms and the associated price to that. So, what is the ballpark, plus or minus figure, for those? I mean, because I heard a lot, and I'm still processing. Takes a little bit, and a little slow sometimes. But I just needed to know kind of a ballpark where we are, and because there's a lot of your words, a lot of uncertainties, maybes, perhaps, if so. I just want to fully understand that.
Perfectly fair question. I think from the elements that we spoke of in terms of modification, just to kind of review, $20,000 to convert the district office to a classroom.
Yep.
$10,000 to convert the boardroom to a classroom. $10,000 to install district office into Giles, and $10,000 moving cost. So that's $50,000. Now, I'd also recommend, though, that as I mentioned, the process of engaging the teachers in the buildings for individual decisions. The likelihood of them wanting to do something different than they do it today is high. And they have the ability for them to, if they wanted to move a marker board, they could move a marker board sort of thing. So I'd recommend you set aside a fund, I'll call it a contingency fund for lack of a better word. Hard to quantify, but let's say $10,000, just so we put a ceiling to it. So you're in the $60,000 range.
Less than what it was originally projected or announced a few meetings ago, because I think the number that was
floating around was somewhere between 80 and 100,000, right?
Correct.
Pricing an idea is very hard.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
now we have a little meat on the bone. So I think we're a little bit more specific.
Okay.
But I think if I'm reading this correctly too, there is when we talk about the stairs, it's about $100,000.
Well,
Each
as
of
I,
the stairs
as, I,
each.
as I said, and we didn't talk about this too much, speaking of the stairs at Giles is a driver for location, and
Okay.
the obvious question is, can the stairs at Giles be changed? And the beautiful thing in the world of construction, anything could be changed for enough money. I think the stairs at Giles are particularly challenging. You know, the ones that are on the outside of the building, you can see how you can expand a stair and kind of bump out the edge of the building.
Mm-hmm.
There are some internal stairs at Giles, so it's completely surrounded by existing school. And for all practical purposes, you really can't change those without reconstructing the building. So that's where you're getting into literally the hundreds of thousands of dollars per stairs if you wanted to do that. But again, predicating on the idea of if the younger students have the largest problem with the stairs at Giles and we move them to Lee, that reduces the problem, doesn't eliminate the problem, but reduces the problem. So again, that it could be done. I've never seen it done in my career. I've run across the substandard stair issue before, and it's one of those things that everybody struggles with, but the ratchet up to really address it fundamentally is very high.
But I understand that. We also want to be very proactive about that too.
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
safety is.
So I thought it was a logical question, so I
whether,
thought I'd put a
whether
little...
they're small children or
Applies to
7th, 8th
adults as
graders,
well.
applies to all, and even adults
Definitely.
going up and down the stairs. So,
Agreed.
all right, thank you.
Yeah, you talked about with like moving 10 classrooms there, 10 classrooms here. Then is that including like the library? I'm assuming we would need to be moving certain books are
Material.
going to be certain levels.
Yeah,
And then for the band equipment to be moved from Lee all to Giles.
Correct. Yeah, that's generally allocated in there. Again, you know, some of these are building decisions, and I think also too, libraries are a classic example. Great time to weed is when you do that sort of thing. But I do think substantially some of the material would have to swap back and forth, about an equal amount too.
But that's included in the 10,000 cost for everything.
You had mentioned that drinking fountains were a non-core necessity because being so low.
Correct.
How much would it cost to approximately? Because I mean,
I turned it
you
in my
say it's a
mind
non-core
too.
necessity. I think the children, the students, and the teachers would probably disagree that that's.
Well, they still
don't wanna
work.
drink
I mean, they're not clearly as
They do.
comfortable or as usable. No question
Yes.
about that. So, in terms of doing that, in reality, it isn't worth the effort to move an existing fountain. Is what you typically do would be remove the one that's there and replace it with new. The delta there is really quite small. But I'd say you're probably looking at approximately $2,000 to $3,000 a drinking fountain, and there's 5 in that quarter.
Thank you.
And then would we have to update the plumbing and everything there right now? Because right now the water's yellow.
That's an excellent point.
So, I mean-
Yeah, particularly with plumbing.
Once you start
Not too
something,
dissimilar
you
from
have
the
to
stairs.
go
Once
the
you
whole-
start, it's very hard, particularly in old buildings, to really trace that. But I think that's a reasonable estimate for what we know for now.
Instead of putting a traditional water fountain, I've noticed in some of like even the high schools, they have this water center where
Yes.
the student can put a bottle or a water bottle
Oh,
and
fantastic.
get that filtered water. And could that be an option in some of those
Again, kind
corridors
of
and
reinforcing the
eliminate,
new.
and
Yeah.
eliminate having multiple water fountains? Maybe have one nice,
Well, what he's talking about is there's an accessory you get on a drinking fountain that's allowed for a bottle filler. My favorite part about it is a little digital readout they have there, which tells you how many
bottles you
bottles
saved
it
from
saved
the-
by filling that way. And I went past one the other day that was in the 6 digits, which definitely got my attention. But yeah, that'd be very easy to do.
because I know Ridgewood High School has like a couple of them in just different corridors throughout the high school.
Wildly popular.
And what's the
But
cost
again,
on
though,
something?
is
Those-
that with water that isn't yellow?
Compared to the
filter on
traditional
it,
new
so-
one, it'd be about $1,500 more. You wouldn't need to do them all, but just as you say, one per corridor is not a bad way to go.
I have one last question.
Go ahead.
So the 50,000 plus the 10 plus the water fountains, but that doesn't address any of the safety concerns that were brought up.
Thank you. That's an excellent point. Yeah, this is literally, we wanted to kind of really kind of focus our conversation here. This really just to address the issues that relate to the grade level center. And I think it's very useful to remind everybody, and thank you for reminding me that, this does not address condition issues. If I found a bad marker board in the classroom, it does not include that sort of thing. The water, a good example, outlets, things like that, things that are reflected within that life safety study.
Yeah, condition issues are condition issues, whether in grade centers or elementary schools at K-8, they're gonna remain. And so, as we've said before,
With the referendum,
that's one of the things we have to look at into the future. Do we want to put a second referendum on the ballot for the buildings?
the bonds,
The building bonds, not operating.
the non-operating. This is right now, we only have the referendum for the operating.
That's correct.
And then we were talking about that we would be thinking about for life safety issues. That was recommended by the committee, superintendent committee. So,
One last question then. So then if we moved you guys over to Giles for the 10,000 or whatever it would be, would that make that entrance secure for them? Like right now how, would
Yeah,
that be a secure entrance with that amount of money?
I
Or
think-
would that be,
I think that the most challenging thing is how to spend that money. To be honest, I've been really impressed with the administration. Just get me in, make it workable. It doesn't need to be fancy. So I think, but at kind of the bottom line, I think to have a buzzer that they
the
can
buzzer so
control
where they can have them
in
in the
there, I
middle
think makes all the
entrance
sense
there?
in the world. And I highly recommend that as the first step. I don't think necessarily I make that call, but that'd be my recommendation.
we moved the daycare down there at that end for when we did the roof over here. So there
Yeah, so
is,
they had the buzzer thing or something.
they had the
at
buzzer
time,
and the
right?
stuff. They have
The
it
wireless,
set up
the
in that
Wi-Fi.
one room and stuff already.
Yeah,
So
there's some
we
infrastructure.
already have that structure or that part of it somewhat set up. If
Yeah,
it's
that's
still
why I just
working or
wanted to make
not,
sure
I
it
don't
ends
know,
up
but
being-
I think it'll be a lot more contained than what it is today, whereas at Giles you walk in.
Well, that's the thing here, like you're going up and all over, so
At
that's
least
kind of
there
ideal
you'll be
to
walking
be there,
in.
that one.
Actually, it has a
Okay, so-
handicap accessibility ramp too, right there in that
Sure.
door.
Public access.
Most people don't even notice it.
But it was interesting. Really helped us understand the buildings a lot better. Working with the principals, get some insight into schedules and things like that. But recognize there's still work to be done. I think I'd really like to again have the teachers administration really drive what classes go where, what's most advantageous to them if that's the setup you'd like to go with. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I had actually one last one. We were talking about the packing up of the classrooms. The teachers would be responsible for packing up their own classrooms?
they do it.
Traditionally, I haven't gone into depth on that, but traditionally the teachers do the initial packing of their items in their classroom. Some districts do that literally every year, allowing
Which we do.
intra-building moves and things like that. I would recommend that just to kind of like when you move yourself, you kind of want to pack your
So
own
how
stuff.
would that work into their schedule?
They do it now.
For the most part, that's what the teachers do now. At the end of the day, they pick up the rooms.
They have time to sign
Yeah.
extra days after school is done to get that done.
Thank you.
I'm sure that we'll have more questions in a little bit.
Very good.
Thank you, Alan.
So I shared with the board an updated version of the 2017-18 deficit reduction plan as of 2/14/2017. I want to walk through it